said, well, first and foremost, we missed too many open shots. But I do think that we defended well. He said we can't let them shoot so many threes, and we have to stop turning the ball over. But Marv...
George off the fake. Oh, he has caught fire. Oh, George.
Off the dribble, drains the three. He's been quiet in his career the last couple of years, battling some injuries. There's Paul George.
Come humility to learn what you should be doing.
Kyrie Irving missing on both, which is unusual. At 0-3 for the first time in their brief history here in Oklahoma City since the move from Seattle.
Putting up big numbers here in the first 5 games of the year for Phoenix. George with the step back, knocks it down. Took over 42,000 shots, Mike, going to rework his three-point shooting. Showcased it there. Paul George off the dribble. And got the shooter's touch as it rolls in. Paul George. George twirls, and that silky smooth stroke knocked. The Thunder certainly going to have to keep an eye on him defensively. Paul George guarded by Mike Scott. Little shimmy. Marjanovic.
I mean, the Thunder have kept him pretty much at bay here. Not a factor. As Paul George.
Paul George hadn't fired up a shot in a while. He's now...
Buy time for your big to get back.
Westbrook. Morris got a piece of it, but it still somehow finds its way, and Paul George banks it with those long arms, able to reel it in.
Good two-man game scenario there, and he hit the open shots. So Paul George, who averaged, has gotten 14 points off the bench so far. Paul George back out there, created a little room, and he hit it.
Yeah, he likes that little fadeaway to his left.
You can also say offensively the way that Ariza stretched the floor and hit that corner three as well.
And George able to drill it.
San Antonio, not like he didn't have one before, but he's playing so much better than he has.
There's George knocking it down. George picked up on a switch by Capella. Goes right at him and pops it. Paul George catching fire in the second.
Foul as he Euro steps into the lane and missed a layup. Paul George, pull up. Barea 6 of 11 for the floor tonight. That's his first missed 3 and 3 attempts from deep. Paul George drains it. It's 10.
Well, we like the impact he's making right now. James Noel had that 20 and 15.
Paul George. Right elbow jumper. Steven Adams and the work that he's done. You'd think that he's been in the league a long time, that he's much older than he is. As Paul George can't miss here tonight, he's got 15 points. DeAndre Ayton was totally blown up when he was at Arizona, rightfully so. He was an excellent player. But you get to the NBA as Paul George now with 30. Paul George does not use the screen. Instead, cheers back left, then he uses it, pushes it up, and knocks it down. Paul George with 6 early ones.
It's Paul George here who has the basketball.
Who doesn't love getting a screen from Steven Adams? See, Paul George does.
I don't know what that's called.
Stay there and don't move until the shot actually hits the rim. And he might not think it doesn't mean much, but it really...
Picked out of his hands by Warren. George on the pull-up. Got the roll.
They got a roll, a bounce.
Did you ever get an alley-oop when you were playing?
Yeah, the Nerf
was it? I was going to say, was it an alley-oop? Rogan Bender making his way to the scorer's table again here. George on the pull-up, and it's just looking effortless here.
Second half.
I think he might have been fouled right there, and he's talking to the referees about it.
And that's 2 more off turnovers, and Dave Yeager senses a change in momentum. Boy, he ran that play to perfection.
Yes, he did.
George banks it home, 96-93.
Paul George has been set off the dribble again to try to get a good look.
Paul George weaving around, and he knocks down the shot.
Much the way Paul George just did his shot, a little bit of,
Defense by Jeremy Grant. Second best shot blocker on the team is Paul George. Had to dance on the rim and fall.
Just
pick up the pace?
Absolutely, pick up the pace.
And George by himself doing the work over there.
Come on, man. Can you bottle this? The Brooklyn Nets have 88 points with
and stolen. Weaving is Paul George. He lost Lowry, fires and scores.
It must have hit the rim because the shot clock reset. But an empty possession. Now comes Paul George with a pull-up, and it's good. Second basket for George. Finish off glass. George over Holiday. It's good, and he's in double figures.
You want to see your MVP candidate go to the wood, go to the deck right there. That's nice play. Nice Paul George.
Crossover and hit to make it. It's his team to stay upbeat. George on the hip of Harris. Doesn't matter. Paul George.
109 as he continues that historical run.
George dances. Paul George.
Hits what side of the backboard?
I thought it was the top of the backboard. The way that it popped up. Did you say smooth?
Let's see how Fox does on George. He blocked a shot earlier in this game, and he slaps it away there. And George regains, and that leads it. The Elites are now 1 of 4 from 3. That was way outside. Paul George, 2 more for 36.
George fires up to 2. 20th assist for Rubio. It's all about stops. 5-point game, 100-95. George has the ball, pulls the trigger.
Absolutely beautiful.
Got to get stops.
Well, someone's got to help Joe.
Paul George, again the jumper.
It's just isolation. Listen, the guy.
And the rebound from Paul George. That hot hand. First shot of the game. Nothing but net for Paul George.
Just let him play for a minute. Probably taking advantage of that too.
Paul George. It's automatic at this point.
Move the ball game.
How about Wiggins and Paul George? We got two guys that are feeling it. Going back at 24 years old, Clint Capella from Switzerland. Didn't play a ton of basketball early on growing up. Paul George hits his third.
Paul George with a scoop to the hoop.
Does not disappoint.
Mid-range pull-up, Paul George.
And fought back.
Yeah, had a little rough patch there.
Yeah, looked like a different team right now.
Bench mob is helping to get it done. As Paul Schroeder's going to get out of the way to give George one side of the floor to work against Cleveland, and hits the rebound. 12-point advantage, 2 minutes to go, third quarter. George, fancy handles, jump shots on the money. That's tough.
He's trying to get
90 seconds to go in the game. ISO at the elbow, working on the bounce. Paul George over Barnes, and good.
And then looks at the Laker bench. Stevenson all over George. Finally draws the foul. Shots! For the game about Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double and what he does every single night. And Luke Walton as a coach, but more importantly as a former player, just gave tremendous respect and appreciation for Russell Westbrook. And
Ferguson stays in the game.
meanwhile, OKC's missed their last 10 shots, and that streak ends as
Three-time All-Star, first-team All-NBA a year ago. First returns on All-Star voting. Paul George.
defense without fouling. The best he could do was a step-back 3. Bradley Beal with a hand in his face.
George. That's all in fluid motion.
Boy, is it bunched up. 5.5 games separate teams 1 through 8. George with 2 to fire. Nice shot along 2. It's Paul George, then mid-range shot. Paul George
created the Westbrook has posted 2 career triple-doubles in this building. Paul George shakes Herter and delivers.
Look. George, played by Paul. Here's George.
Defiant Moutier would not be denied that time. George shaking up cornets.
knocks down the jumper.
You mentioned George.
So much athleticism there for Damian Lillard. George on the step back. Boy, that's a tough shot as well. Holiday.
Oh, Thunder dodged a bullet on that one. Wide open shot by Holiday. He normally makes that shot.
Just 1 out of 6 from 3, but Paul George with the 16-footer.
Conversation. I get it. Our job is to wonder about where he's going to be, but for this particular instance, this is just about respect for a teammate.
Paul George.
George over Gordon. Tough shot. Knocks it in.
Fella right there. Like his right arm was being held. Just able to get that one through.
George, good again.
You got to get back in trends, make shots.
George rising over Fournier. He can get.
Continues to beat them off the dribble and get great looks at the rim.
Paul George with the step back made a little bit of space, just like you showed at the show.
His hat on his scoring alone anymore. Russell Westbrook is just the assist, his rebounding ability. He's defending at a higher level. Ooh, that's a tough shot by Paul George. But what paint points there for the Pels?
Paul George hits it. Oklahoma City needed that one.
Credit for that shot, but it's Rudy Gobert who created the opportunity right there.
George comes back down and now has 34.
That he could be open in the corner to be able to knock down that three. Now we're in the midst of an 8-0 run by Denver.
They get to the line, but then once they get there, they don't shoot a great percentage. They're, as we mentioned, Dave, I mean, they are 28th in the NBA in free throw percentage if they knock down that shot.
Like a good recipe for a win if the Jazz can keep that going.
Now those two are 2 of 7. They go for 51 points a night, 19 rebounds and 15 assists. And right on cue.
Look at that in the break.
Yeah, the call on the floor is a 2-ball for the moment. George working against Dante. Jumpers away, off the rim and in.
He used every. And back comes Paul George. Paul George still with just 2 points in the game, and he must have heard.
Excellent play by Grant.
36% three-point shooter this year. Paul George working against Crabbe. And Paul George with the stare-down jumper, and boy, in a
second half. 4 of his last 5 games, 30 or more points. George drives and got it. He's got a 20.
So we got to just get on the glass as best we can.
Steve, what about the way Clay and Steph play enhances the incredible skill they bring?
A three-pointer that Steph Curry hit. They didn't take the whole thing away, just a point, because he had a toe on the line. As Paul George back second in the league with,
and he's a center.
He's a center.
And George just continue to score. That's going to be a big factor here this final 6 minutes.
George again. Another defensive stop. And George again. This time on the step back. Strokes that mid-range and it pinballs in.
Half-court pass. 5 seconds for the quarter. Paul George crossover. Knocks it down.
Like him shooting. He's a three-point shooter. Mainly in that corner.
George again. Not settling for the 3. Instead steps below the free.
He had a 17-2 advantage in that painted area. Also got to that free throw line. We have 11 of 12. Paul George.
Start the period. And then the Thunder went up by as many as 12 here in the 4th. George on the pull-up. Got it.
23, no. Rebound by Paul George. Houston has 6 consecutive empty trips. Paul George!
And his foot was on the line. Scott Foster didn't see it that way. Step back, George. Yes. Tough shot there in the NBA in his 3rd year. That was the 15-16 season. George over Cantor. Cantor tried to help. Yeah.
Gets them on their feet.
Pump faked the 3 and drove and took it home. As you see Paul George, yeah, nice rhythm by Paul. I like that shot. Point play as he misses the free throw. Paul George coming up the rebound, however.
Second chance opportunity here. George is hot. George stays hot. Paul George 4 for 4. George with that big first quarter. 15 in the first.
He's working on Rodney Hood, and George hits an offensive rebound for Portland. They are +6 in that category. Long step back 2 by George.